Jones, Julian Petley. I think that's it. There's a whole bunch of other folks in the audience as well. Kim Newman's here, and Spencer Hickman's here, and loads of other. Alex Chandon's here. He's quiet as well, isn't he?
Wake up!
Yeah, I can hear him. So, guys, Jake and Mark, how did this one come about straight after the original one? Most recent.
It wasn't really straight after, it was like a couple of years, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first one is 2010, so it was interesting because everyone kept saying, are you going to do another one?
Particularly now,
yeah, in fact, it was actually Fright Fest who kept asking us, they said, there's more to the story, and we were like, oh God, we've got to do another one. So it took us about 2 years to do this, to get it together, which was... So it was really carrying on the history from the end of the first one, which took us up to 1985, and we thought, okay, Furman and his tenure at the BBFC was really the kind of meat and drink of censorship as it was in the UK when it was Draconian. And I think that was really what led us into this documentary.
Yeah, originally we planned to bring it up to date, basically, with Serbian film and stuff like that, but we thought that the time gap between, like, when Furman resigned or whatever left, and up to present day was too big, so we just thought we compacted down into that era. And it basically works better like that, doesn't it?
And David, obviously you're one of the stars of this, and kind of you were on the hit list almost. How was it living through that time?
Well, for me, it was obviously fucking awful because I was getting arrested every couple of years. So, I think for everybody, it was, it was hard times because you never knew what you could do, what you could get away with, and we were all young, we were all naive, we were all, breaking the law basically. But yeah, we know we were breaking the law. Oh, we didn't realise how serious it was, I guess.
And Alan, I mean, how was it for you? Because you were obviously on the inside but the outside at the same time. So.
I do not still have that suit, if anybody ever...
Yes, you do. I've seen you wear it.
That's the first question I'm always asked. I don't know, it was really difficult. I mean, you've got to remember that that time there were very few people writing about horror. And I was one of those. There was like about 4 of us. Were you around, Kim, at that time? You were. And so it was very, very difficult sometimes to actually do this. That's why I wore the suit, because I wanted to make sure people didn't realise that I was a professional writer. I wasn't just going to turn up and not do that. So it was really hard to be the one person who was against the rest of the country. Yeah, exactly. And Stefan from Shock Express is in that clip as well. So it was really quite hard, but we had to stick our heads above the parapet just to make sure people knew that they weren't alone, really, and to make sure that we could try, as much as we could, put our points across, which, of course, as you could see, was really very, very difficult at that point. But hey.
And Julian, what was your perspective on the whole era?
Well, I mean, it was interesting because, there was a great kind of sense of discovery in the early 80s. There we were, having been denied, really, thanks to the BBFC, sight of so much interesting kind of horror stuff, particularly from continental Europe. They'd banned it when it was from the cinema, or people just hadn't bothered really to submit stuff to the cinema because they knew the BBFC wouldn't pass it. So there was this kind of great sense of discovery, really, from the late 70s or 79 through to about 84, when all these wonderful videos were out there and they hadn't really been written about very much. I mean, some people like Alan and Ken and me were writing about them, but there weren't kind of like history books on them like there are now. So there was a kind of huge sense of discovery, but on the other hand, you were watching awful kind of 7th or 8th or 9th or nth kind of grade dupes, but I don't want to sound nostalgic about it because it was actually pretty grim in many ways, and people like Alan and Kim and me, and also actually Mark Kermode, for example, we were actually writing about these films, but of course not in mainstream newspapers, because those papers were on the whole on the side of the censors. I mean, even the fairly liberal Guardian was not, on the whole, a defender of video nasties, because these were thought to be sexist and misogynist. So you had to write about these films really where you could in magazines like the Monthly Film Bulletin, where Kim and I wrote about and things like that.
Okay, I'm going to throw it to the audience. So obviously, if you guys want to ask anything, these guys already do the folks saying.